What's up internet? In this video we're gonna do an online input lag test for Tekken 7 on PC. What's unique about this test is gonna be real time. I've got a Tekken 7 trainer here that's able to capture real-time input lag during matches. I've got pre-recorded footage of various connections. So I've got wire versus wire, wire versus Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi versus wired, and then Wi-Fi versus Wi-Fi. Well, you may wonder what's the difference between wire versus Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi versus wire? Well, this just means that I'm wired and the opponent is Wi-Fi. And then here, I'm Wi-Fi versus a wired opponent. First, let's take a look at wire versus wired. I've got footage of all the different connections from 5 bars to 1 bar. Alright, let's start with the 5 bar here. So with 5 bars, I got 1 frame of input lag on wired. We're gonna go to our spreadsheet here and put in 1 frame. Now on 4 bars, I got 2 frames of input lag. So we're gonna do 2 frames here. 3 bars, we are getting 4 frames of input lag. Let's do 4 frames here, so it looks like it's doubling up each time. According to this trend, looks like 2 bars, maybe 8 frames. I don't know for sure, let's take a look. With 2 bars, I'm getting 6 frames. So it's not quite doubling up. Now let's go on to 1 bar. Is it gonna be 8 frames or more, or is it gonna be something else that's a lot worse? So I got 1 bar here, and the current lag is 13 frames. 13 frames here. Looks like it's more than doubling up the 2 bars. I would avoid 1 bars at all costs. Speaking of avoiding, just so you know, it was really difficult for me to get matched up with a 1 or 2 bar player, and the reason why is they just decline the matches. I mean, who wants to play under these conditions? And of course I'm playing it in the name of science, but it took so long. In fact, it took me days and days trying to get matched up with these 1 bar and 2 bar players. Okay, in terms of wired versus wired, 5 bars is obviously the best. You got only 1 frame of input lag. And then 4 bars is still very playable. And even 3 bars is still playable. It's not ideal, but still playable. But when you get to 2 bars, that's 6 frames. That's pretty high. And 1 bar, just don't do it. It's 13 frames or more. It's a disaster. Alright, let's move on to wired versus Wi-Fi. So I'm wired and the opponent is Wi-Fi. Alright, a 5 bar Wi-Fi player is 2 frames of lag. For 4 bar, I'm getting 3. For 3 bars, I'm getting 6 frames. And with 2 bars, I got nothing. I couldn't get matched up after days and days of trying. We'll just skip that one. But I am able to get a 1 bar footage. And here's the 1 bar Wi-Fi. The lag is 14 frames. That's horrendous. When it comes to you being wired versus a Wi-Fi player, it's obviously slower than a wire-to-wire connection. It looks like it's gonna be either a 1 or 2 frame difference. Alright, now let's move on to me being Wi-Fi versus a wired opponent. In theory, these two should be the same, right? Being that one player is on Wi-Fi and the other being wired, the game has to wait for both of you to put in your input before displaying the information. But for kicks and giggles, let's test it out anyway to see if there are any differences. With 5 bar, I got 2 frames. 4 bars, I'm getting 3. 3 bars, I'm getting 6 here. With 2 bars, I'm getting 7. And 1 bar, I'm getting 14 frames. So when you compare the two, they're exactly the same. Because they're exactly the same, I think we can pretty safely say that the 2 bars here is also the same. So let's put 7 frames there. Alright, last but not least, let's do Wi-Fi versus Wi-Fi. This is gonna be super interesting. I can't wait to see how slow it is. For 5 bar, I'm getting 2 frames of lag. With a 4 bar, I'm getting 4 frames. With a 3 bar, I'm getting 6 frames. A 2 bar, I'm getting 8 frames. And unfortunately, I could not get matched up with a 1 bar Wi-Fi versus Wi-Fi. So we're gonna just work around that. Looking at these results versus a Wi-Fi versus wire connection, looks like it's 1 more frame that needs to be added to it. And also if you look at the wired numbers, wire versus wired, and then wire versus Wi-Fi, it's also about 1 frame difference. So I think we can safely say that 15 frames or more for Wi-Fi versus Wi-Fi on 1 bar. And looking at it as a whole, of course wire versus wires will give you the best connections. Going from 5 bars to 4 bars, you gotta add 1 frame. And then going down to 3 bars, you gotta add 2. And then 2 more, going down to 2 bars. And then you gotta really just double it and then some for 1 bar. And then if you're playing against a Wi-Fi player, each of these numbers, you gotta add 1 more frame to it, right? So here, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And in this case, there's 2 frames of difference. 6 to 7, 13 to 14. And if both of you are on Wi-Fi, you gotta add another frame on top of that. So 3 to 4, 7 to 8, 14 to 15. So what did we learn from this? Just don't play on Wi-Fi. Please plug in a wire. Alright, that's gonna be it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more videos like this. And take care now.